In this video, we're going to complete the construction of the freeform pool and then place it into the landscape. What we've done in the previous video was copy over and extend the base of the previous pool and then drawn and extruded a new freeform surface to make the edges of the pool. But we want to be able to edit this and manipulate it as a solid, not as a series of surfaces, because this will be much more effective. In order to take this and to make it into a solid like we started with for the rectangular pool, we need one more surface. So if we make a bounded volume that is completely enclosed on all edges with surfaces, we can then turn that into a solid and then use solid editing tools, which are very useful. So I'll select the curve that we drew. I'll go to the surface pull down and I will make a planar curve surface. Now I have enough surfaces that if I collect all of them and go to the solid pull down and say create solid, it will do a bit of mathematics, and I will now have not just a joined group of surfaces, but what Rhino considers to be a solid. And now I can use the filleting tools that we used for the rectangular pool to soften the edges. Specifically, in this case, just the bottom edge. So I'll go to Solid, Fillet Edge. I will select this. I actually want it to be a chained edge, which it did not grab the first time. Now if I click again, having told it that I want a chained edge, it will give me the entire profile of the bottom of the pool. And I'll use the 8-inch radius, which you see here that I had used before. I'll hit return, 8 inches all around. And Rhino will now create an 8-inch radius all the way around the bottom of this new freeform solid that we have for the pool. Now to create the pool deck, I'm again going to go back to this, explode it, because I don't need it to be a solid anymore. I'm going to take off the top face. I'm going to take the edge curve. I'm going to offset that. And I will use the new curve together with the previous curve to make a new surface, a surface from planar curves, which will represent the pool deck. Now before I do that, I might go back and actually adjust part of this surface around the deep end to create an area that might be useful for diving boards and slides. So I will undo that, and before I create the surface, I'll come back and I will take this edge curve. I'll turn its edit points on. Notice that there are a lot more edit points now than there were before. This is a very complex curve. I'll select a series of those points and I'll try to start moving those in some dimension. This might prove to be a bit messy. I might want to find other ways to adjust this curve. Perhaps I'll select fewer edit points and try to move those in what might be a slightly smoother curve. This still might need a bit more editing. You notice with so many points that I get some bulges and bumps in here. One of the nice things that you can do with Rhino is you can now come in and you can start to actually take individual edit points and delete them, which can start to smooth the curvature out in certain places. In fact, if I take this one away, the curve gets smoother, and so I'm going to start deleting some of these excess edit points. I might actually want to take this one out, take them out in a slightly different order. Take that one out, take this one out. Now I'm smoothing this curve pretty nicely. Might take another one out there. Notice with it that goes away, the curve gets smoother overall. I could be doing this in the top view, just so that I can really see clearly what I'm doing. I might take away that control point, that one. I might move this one slightly over in order to smooth the curve. And I might come over here and say that everything looks fine to me right now. So that is a little introduction to using edit points to change the shape of a curve, but also to remove edit points and to move others in order to have a smoother curve in the end. Once we have the curve that we want, we can hit escape. And now I can take this outside curve and the first curve that we used, and I can create the surface from planar curves that connects the two. And I've got a wider area over here, approximately 20 feet. I didn't use anything to measure it this time. And as we did before, I can take that surface and this other surface, I can join them together. In fact, I've got a lot of loose surfaces, so I'm going to use a selection tool, and I'm going to select all surfaces here from the top view. Select all surfaces, and I'm going to make sure to join all of those together. So now I have one continuous and grouped poly surface. And as we did before, I will use the solid offset command in order to create a new solid that thickens this by 8 inches, still set to that as it was before, and to create a nice thickened solid for my pool. So when I cut a section through this, it will have two edges all the time, and it will operate as one thickened solid. So now what I'm going to do is place this into the landscape and trim the landscape away as we continue this. Actually, the inner edge curve I can delete. So I really just want the outer edge curve and the surface to be moved and placed. Notice that it is now entirely beneath the surface. Not exactly what I want, so I'll move it up. And again, you can start to get a feel for exactly where this is sitting in plan. We could take this and see some shading so we can get a sense of where this is and start to move it around some more. Place it somewhere in the landscape. We could turn on our contours for reference if we wanted to say, oh, let's put it back in this corner of the landscape. That seems to fit pretty nicely. And perhaps come back to perspective and start to look around at it and say, the uphill side is looking pretty good. I might want to lower it a bit. Take it down by a foot or two. Look around. That's starting to get closer, I think. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this edge curve that we created, and I'm going to make a surface out of it that I'll use as a cutting surface. So with surface, extrude, curve, straight, and in this case I might say both sides, and I'll make a slight up and down surface that will be very useful for trimming this into place. I can take these two things, I can group them, I can say Control G. So now when I'm moving the pool, I'm also moving this trimming surface, and maybe I'll turn off the contours so I can just see how close this is sitting to the ground, so that if I take it and start to move it down slightly, I can get a view of where this is sitting. Right now it's mostly below the ground in the back, so there would be a retaining wall there carved into the ground. I can take it and move it up slightly, or left or right. Get it to a place that I like. And then I can use, again, I can take this Control Shift G, ungroup it, and I can use this edge surface to trim the ground surface away around the pool. And similarly, I can use the ground surface to trim this top and bottom surface. And what's going to happen is you're going to sometimes have the surface where you want it and sometimes have excess surface. So what you can see now is that we have the pool sitting here in the hillside. We would need to have another version of that surface to connect here where the pool deck is popping out of the ground. And on the back side, we have it meeting the ground pretty much in a flat way. So I would probably take that curve. I would create another surface. In this case, I don't need both sides. I can just extrude it down. And I can take that surface and I can trim it based on this surface. So with this as the cutting edge, but cutting it from below, I can cut a version of that surface that fills in the edge. And so what I have is the pool now set in the landscape in a place where I might want it. I can go back later and I can trim away these contours, again using the surface that I created here through trimming as a cutting surface to trim away these contours that are going through the pool itself. For now, I'll turn those off. And we'll save the file, and this is a version of the pool, the freeform version. First, I'll give this a unique name for myself. You, in the end, will save this as a singular file that will have different pools in it. So if I turn pool rectangle back on and turn pool freeform off, you can now go through some of the similar steps to move this pool, place it in the landscape, trim the landscape around the pool, and you can have two versions of the pool in the landscape. In the end, you should have three versions, one of which you create yourself, that is some kind of a hybrid between freeform and a rectangle, maybe an L-shaped pool, an angled pool, or a pool that has curved surfaces as well as straight surfaces. Thank you.